Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Dear Me. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, still reeling. Well, obviously, Addie and Colette have kind of been dealing with this a little bit longer than everyone else, but obviously now you see the aftermath of Will's death. The fact of the matter is everyone at the school dealing with it. It's actually interesting because, everyone we saw was mainly high schoolers. We never got any of the faculty's reaction to it. Like, the only adults we've seen are, Addie's mom and Colette. I mean, and other than, the recruiters, obviously, like, the dude that Kurtz and Willow was always, that recruiter dude, they're the only adults. Everyone else is kids' reactions, because obviously Addie's still kind of dealing with it because she can't really talk to anyone about it. She can't even talk to Beth about it. Which I think that's what makes this whole thing complicated, because she's a teenager. She needs an outlet to kind of talk about what she's dealing with. But Colette is just kind of telling her to bury it and just kind of move past it. But the thing is, she talked to Beth, and Beth's is like, oh yeah, the fact of the matter is, she kind of talks about it like this isn't her first time, because she's like, she asked Addie, is this the first time you've kind of known someone to die from suicide? And she's like, it's not your first. It's like, no. So she has an uncle who died, who I think she said hung himself in the garage. And then it's like her aunt found him, but the fact of the matter is she didn't report anything. She let the kids fix the kids' breakfast, and when they got sent to school, then she called the police. And then, Beth was like, either she did it because, trying to keep them from, learning the truth, or it was because she wanted to give enough time to make sure that he was actually dead. And the fact of the matter is, Beth talking about the fact is, it really screws you up, because it's like, yeah, she's been a major bitch since then. And you can see that whole thing, that whole conversation is kind of rattling throughout Addie's mind because of just, what she saw. And I think, the whole conversation about seeing something like that, what it would do to you, it will change you. Especially because it's like the recruiter dude who found Will's body, it's like hearing all those gruesome details and stuff like that, saying something like that won't shake your head. Stuff like that keeps coming up. And obviously you got people like Tassie being like, yeah, I'm so sad. And you could see the look on Addie's face, like she's so disgusted. And even Beth being like, yeah, it's a day for people who actually knew him to be sad. Because it's just like people I forgot what she called her. Grief vultures, essentially people who are just trying to, because she does it again in other episodes, like, oh, I can't believe I'll never see him again. And someone literally, we never got the other side of the conversation, but someone literally was like, when was the last time you actually saw him? So it's like so it seems like for Tassie it's just a thing of like, oh, she's trying to be like, oh my god, I'm so sad about this, I'm so broken up about it. It's like, you didn't know the dude, you didn't even interact with him like that. So cut the crap, because it's a whole thing, because Beth had made that conversation about the fact is that kind of sadly the selfishness of someone committing suicide. The fact of the matter is you leave people behind with so many questions, wondering what did they do wrong, what could they have done, especially when you don't leave a note, don't give any answers. So I think it becomes a thing later on, because Addie starts thinking about him, because unlike everyone else, she actually spent a fair amount of time with Will, so she actually kind of got to know him a little bit better, especially the time she was spending with Colette and everything. And I think for her, there's a part of her that starts feeling guilty, thinking maybe, hey, if I noticed the signs, maybe I could have done something. I was around him long enough, but I didn't see the signs, and I think maybe that's kind of bothering her. It's obviously affecting everyone. Once, like I said, Colette's just being like, it's like, you just keep doing what you're doing, just focus on school and practice and everything. And eventually, people are talking now, but eventually stuff like this, people stop talking after a while. And obviously, it's like, it's still shaky for Addie. So I know, kind of to steer away from kind of the depressing stuff for a little bit, I've never commented on it. The athleticism of the ladies in the show, it's fucking insane. When you're looking at those cartwheels and flips, I'm like, in the entire time, I've never actually commented on just how super fucking impressive that is. Their movements, the slow-mo just helps you really taking them just the shit, when someone's athletic, I'm envious. I never do anything like that, and probably if I got myself in super better shape, that's probably never gonna happen. But it's just that thing of you just admiring the athleticism of it. I've just never taken the time to really take a step back and just realize. I mean, obviously it's a show about these girls who are fit and athletic, and it's just kind of like, wow. Because to me, it's almost like, looking at like, an athlete, like, especially like, it's not the same thing, but like someone who it kind of is the same thing as like watching an athlete in the Olympics. Even though I've never seen Olympics, it's just that kind of same thing of just like seeing what the human body can do is like fucking gnarly, So it's that thing. It's just like I've never taken time to really kind of notice that. I was like, I was like, man, fuck the cartwheels and stuff. Like I said, slow motion makes everything look cooler too. So it's like, especially like some people are like trolling. It's like, that looks so badass. That looks like some shit you'd see in a kung fu movie, martial arts movie, But nevertheless, like Beth does her thing, and Colette was like, yeah, you kind of messed it up there at the end. She's like, oh, what? Maybe you need to clear your ears out, because you're too busy on your phone, or maybe it's just your eyes, or no, your eyesight is mental because you were too busy looking at your phone. And she said, what'd you say? And then Beth was like, or maybe it's your hearing that needs to be checked out. I mean, it's part of getting old, which I find funny you say that, considering the fact that Colette's not even that old. But, to a high schooler, it's like, oh, she's 28, 29. I say that because the actress who plays Willa Fitzgerald, I want to say she's 28. I think when I looked it up, which once again I always find funny because obviously the actresses who are playing teenagers are actually in their 20s. Like I know the actress who plays Addie Horizon, I know she's like 23. I want to say. I think the actress Marlo who plays Beth is also that. So there's even less of a gap, but it's supposed to be you're a teenager and you're looking at people in their mid to late 20s as old. Like I said, depending, because like Colette might not be the same age as the actress who plays her, that whole thing, but nevertheless, and just like, you could tell like Colette wanted to hit her, but it's just kind of like, fine, it's whatever, practice is over, and just walks away, and Beth just kind of, and you have Addie being like, you don't have to do that, like, she's going through stuff. It's like, yeah, like, they kind of banged it out or whatever, and Addie's just trying to be like, she cared about Will. It's like, because in her mind, it's like they could do both. It's like you can have the affair, you can make a mistake, but still love your husband. But obviously, like, it's like you have Beth being like, yeah, someone from my dysfunctional family doesn't know what she's talking about when it comes to this. And I'm like, right. I mean, because once again, to me, that was an interesting conversation that some people have thrown out there, like at the very beginning, because I've thrown it out there, like the reason why Beth was so like bleh about the whole Coach and Will thing, because like obviously because of her family situation, the whole cheating thing, and so I think that's why she kind of took it a little personal. But other people are just being like, that's just kind of who Beth is, so it probably had nothing to do with the whole cheating thing, and just Beth just kind of being an asshole. I mean, to be fair, it could be a combination of the two, but it's. And then she's trying to explain to Addie, it's like, all right, just because my dad's a guy and she's a woman, so there's no way, she could be an asshole. I mean, haven't we all been fighting for equality, so, men can be assholes, so women can be assholes too. Like, not justifying it, but just being like, it's equal. So, but the thing is, Addie kind of has a bit of a blind spot when it comes to Colette. So for her, it's just kind of, because Beth is pointing out the fact is that it's kind of on Colette, because it's like you kind of broke the dude's heart, and it's just like, oh, like, because she was actually referencing the fact is there has to be more to it, because he wouldn't have just killed himself over, like, as she kind of put it, like basically Coach pussy. It's like nah, like that's not enough to like kill yourself over. That's what she was saying, so there had to be more to it. So, but you can tell like all that kind of sits with Addie, because Beth is talking about the fact is like stuff like that, the truth, whatever is going to come out. It's rarely going to be that simple, and the fact is it's going to be interesting when it eventually comes out. And then we get the nail on the coffin when we find out the truth about Will. This first gets dropped by Addie's mom, because it's like, yeah, she didn't want to say this in front of Michael, but she was like, yeah, eventually it's going to come out that eventually this story's going to come out. And literally at the same time, Addie, Beth, and Colette are all finding this out at the same time. Will had a wife, which we know it was referenced earlier in the season, because he was bringing that up to Michael. He made it seem like his wife, they got divorced or something. Turns out his wife died in a terrible accident. She was 5 months pregnant. It's like, now it puts everything into perspective of understanding why, because Colette could never understand, like, it's a whole thing of like, yeah, it was fun and everything for her, but obviously it was literally something Colette brought up last episode. She was like, I was finding an escape, but no part of me ever thought to think, what is Will trying to escape from? Now we see what it is. He lost somebody he loved. He lost a child in the process, and that's enough. And the most messed up thing is, it happened while he was overseas, and now we understand why he was eventually broke down and was telling Michael's like, no, don't, it's not worth it. Like, he'd already kind of started down that purpose earlier on, but he kind of backed away from it, but now he full forced it because he was drunk and just dealing with all that. But now we understand why, like, especially like the thought of like some younger people being taken advantage of, whether it just be like the partying and drinking, or even just Michael and himself, because it's the thing of like, so much of her life is going to go by. I mean, on top of all that, like, he was dealing with the whole Colette thing. She wasn't kind of like pushing forward with him. It's like that relationship meant so much to him because, you know, it's like he found some happiness after a tragedy like that. And now for Colette, she feels even worse because now it's like, now I didn't know that's what he was running from. Like, maybe I would have treated this whole thing like it was fun for me, but he was literally like, it was the, you know, so. And, you know, it even hits Beth a little differently because she's watching the video and she had kept her. And I think for her, it's like she has her mind made up about Colette, but now I think it changed her mind about Will. I think she's still kind of like, fuck Colette, but now I think she feels a little bad about the whole Will situation. Maybe that even makes her even more pissed at Colette about what ended up happening. So all of them kind of, you know, processing this. And then, like, you know, Colette gets a call from Matt, and it's just like, yeah, he's like, I gotta, you know, this thing gets extended. Shit you not, in that very moment, I was like, you don't think Matt did it? Once again, last episode, I was 100%. I was like, I kind of felt like Colette could have done it. Obviously, some people throwing out some stuff to be like, oh, it kind of aims towards it potentially being Colette who did it. But my money's still on Kurtz. But I can't lie to you. There's a part of my brain that was like, you don't think Matt did it, right? Don't tell me he found out about the affair and he killed Will for it. Most likely won't be the case, but it flickered in the back of my mind. It's kind of there now. I'm like, I don't know. He was out of town at the time. That could have potentially happened. I don't know, especially him being like, oh, I'm going to send things. It could be like him covering his tracks a little bit. Just the way I don't know, you know, just the way he responded. It was just like, I love you. And he's like, me too. And I'm like, the pauses in between, no, just immediately. I'm like, did he feel guilty about it? Because I get the inkling like he's known for a while about the affair. Maybe he had inklings. He had inklings definitely, but it's not until later on that maybe it got confirmed. So it's like, all right. Because at the same time, we see the whole thing with Kurtz. Like, obviously, like, the police are outside of the room and everything. And, like, Kurtz is on the outside and he's looking at, like, Addie's mom there, and the next door neighbor was like, oh yeah, like he had messed up hand, like he was like, you know, fighting or something, but she was like, oh, I'm not trying to get involved. And then Kurtz is kind of like nervous behind the door, so either he did it to him, and it might be a byproduct of obviously when him and Kurtz fought like 2 episodes back or whatever. It's probably thinking like Kurtz is like, shit, they're gonna look at me as the number one suspect. I was pissed at him, I was running my damn mouth. So it's either that dude. That's the thing. It could be a toss-up. But like I said, there's a part of me that's like, I could get behind understanding it being Colette. There's a big part of me that believes it's Kurtz. Now there's a small part of me that's like, could it be Matt? Because now I'm wondering, you know, because I figured like if anyone was going to get framed for it, it would be Kurtz. I could totally see like if Colette or even Matt did it, all the evidence pointing towards Kurtz. Someone could definitely throw shade his way. I mean, granted, it's not like Kurtz is a great person. We'll definitely get to that, but it's just like, I don't know, man. And obviously, you know, the whole point is like everyone's kind of going and drinking to kind of, you know, celebrate Will and everything. And obviously, like this new news coming out about his wife and everything. Beth's talking about it, kind of being like, oh, it explains why he probably did what he did and stuff like that. The fact is Colette broke his heart after he found new love again. And the whole conversation is just bumming Addie out. And they're like, Addie, are you okay? Because even Michael had brought that up to Addie's mom about the fact is he had changed his mind and told me like, whoa, back out of recruiting, like don't even do it anymore. He was all for it. He was like my friend and everything, but then like last time I saw him, he kind of backed down. And even Michael was like, maybe I should have seen the signs. I could have done something. Addie's mom was like, that's not on you. And Addie being like, it's not on anyone. Because like Beth is trying to say like maybe it is on someone the reason why Will did what he did, but it's like Addie's kind of like, no. Everyone's thing is kind of their own. Like you can't really control what someone's really going through unless you know. So, but at the party they're kind of drinking and stuff. And, you know, because Addie's trying to forget, you know, and Beth's just kind of partying it up and everything. And then there's the complicated thing of Kurt shows up and you see Beth looking at him. And he kind of looks at her at one point and kind of stares. And then she kind of drops her bottle, which we kind of circle back to, like, the opening of it. But her and, you know, Addie are dancing and stuff. Everyone's got their flashlights up, you know, trying to remember Will and everything. And it's just kind of, and then like, you know, Beth takes Addie back. Addie kind of passes out in the bed. It's like, you don't have to protect her anymore. Because obviously, like, you know, Beth was insinuating, it's like, oh, no. Because like Riri, I think was like, oh, I guess like none of us actually had a chance considering what kind of woman he was into, like, you know, his wife and everything. But Beth was like, no, I think he'd be into blondes and blah, 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 blah. And you have like Addie being like, come on, Beth, he's dead. Like, let's not throw shade on him. Because that's why I'm like worried. It's like, Beth could always snap and decide to put the video out there, but I think if she did it, it would be more sort of hurt Colette. But also, it's like, well, Beth kind of, she's very chaotic, so she's willing to cause some damage regardless. But that's, I don't know, like looking at that, learning about Will, plus looking at the video now, I think she has a very different perspective than she potentially had before. So, but when she was taking Addie back, Addie kind of passes out for a little bit, but then Beth is just kind of like, you don't have to protect her anymore. You don't have to hold her secrets anymore. And it's just kind of, and then, Addie kind of wakes up and Beth is like, oh, I'm never sleeping. I'm always watching. And it's like, I forgot how the conversation got there. It's like, yeah, put a gun to your head. And she was like, it's not in his head. It was in his mouth. And then I was like, shit, Addie, you mess up. And then Beth's like, what'd you say, Addie? It's like, it was in his mouth. And it's like, shit, you messed up big time. And then Beth is there, and it was interesting, that conversation between her and Addie's mom, because she was like, oh, do you ever get weird, how do you feel about always carrying around a gun? And then Addie's mom is like, you make me nervous sometimes, Beth. And she's like, yeah, I kind of make myself nervous or whatever. And I'm like, even that kind of doesn't sound too good. I mean, it almost seemed like it was, because when that whole conversation of suicide came up, there was a part of me that's like, that, Addie might not even be reading the signs, that maybe even Beth's kind of thought about it and contemplated that type of stuff before. I don't want to jump to that conclusion, but the thing is, there are signs, and considering what Beth has gone through, just not just even a Kurt stain, definitely the Kurt stain, you could see that potentially being a trigger, kind of potentially seeing her go down that route. But Beth, holds on to that stuff. And so it's the whole thing of, because obviously Addie had lied, was like, oh yeah, the night that Will, Will committed suicide, Addie claimed that she was with Beth, and she was like, oh yeah, you know what we girls, do, we talk about boys, we talk about our bodies and stuff like that. Beth covers for her, but then kind of brings it up later on and being like, oh yeah, I hope, whatever we were doing, it was fun. And then she says a line that I'm like, why would you even freaking say that? It's like, we both have alibis. I'm like, why would you even say that? So now there's a small part of me like, did you pull the trigger? It's like, why would you pull the trigger? You'd have no reason to kill Will, especially because you're going about things being like, because there's a part of me that's like, well, it could explain why she's asking all those questions about oh, did the news come out about someone pulling the gun in his mouth? But it's like, no, it's just because of her curiosity, because now it's like, wait, what? Addie? No, it's not even the thing of covering her tracks or something because she's involved. It's just because she's trying to figure out what's Addie's part to play and all this, because she knows Addie was over there with Colette. So it's like, wait, did Colette? She's like, so that must mean Addie and Colette must have found the body or something, or maybe that Colette pulled the trigger and that Addie's covering for her, or maybe even that fact is she might even be thinking maybe even Addie pulled the trigger for Colette. That could be where Beth's mind is going. That could be potentially where a lot of people's minds might go with this situation. But because obviously, Addie goes to Colette about no, you don't get it about Beth. Basically, Beth is like a shark. She smells blood in the water, she's going to chomp. Not the, metaphor that she used, but that's the metaphor I'm going to use. Because basically it's like Beth is going to keep going and going until she gets the feeling. She's going to wait for the right moment, and then she's going to strike just to prove that herself right. So she knows she's on the right lane and everything, and Colette's just kind of trying to ignore it all. And Addie brings up the fact is did you know about Will's wife? And it's like, and as Colette's walking away, she's like, no, because the thing is, it's like, maybe the other recruiters know. And Colette had made that remark of Matt, once again screwing up, Will is a very private person, and then in that moment you kind of reflect on, yeah, because he didn't tell you about his wife and stuff like that. So now that's whole thing happening, and I think it was Riri and Beth were talking. It's like, whoa, so the gun in his could have potentially. It's like, oh yeah, basically Riri talks about her dentist kind of gloating about the fact that he's involved in some case or something. But it's like, with the suicide, if there's a big case he's involved in, it'd have to be Will's case. But why would they need his teeth involved? And then Beth is like, maybe if the gun was in his mouth, and it's like, yeah. And it's like, and Addie's overhearing this, and Beth is kind of telling about Addie's reaction that she's kind of getting warmer. It's like, shit, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. So all the while that's going down, you have Colette being happy to have Matt back, which I'm like, oh no, man, there's some part of me that thinking that's suspicious. But because I think for her, having Matt back is a little, she feels guilty, I think, on many different fronts, because she was already trying to end things, but things kind of continue. But I think it's she, felt bad about the affair because she loves her family. She, she just needed an escape, and now she kind of moved past that. But now it's not only did it make her like hold on even tighter, it's because she recognizes what Will was running from. Like the fact is that he lost his wife and their child, and I think it makes, because I guess that symbol on like the tattoo he has like on his back, like near his shoulder, like I think like she's thinking about it, so it's like, oh, he had that, so it must be something connected to his wife. She probably think of like, he's had that tattoo, I never bothered asking him questions about it. It's probably what that might be insinuating, that thought process. But like, I think just the whole thing makes her feel guilty and just makes her realize just how short life can be and just how it could all be taken from you, like it was taken from Will and what it did to him. So there's that. And then Addie and her mom are talking about the whole situation, and then she's just kind of like, you know, I feel like there's inconsistency. And Addie's like, what do you mean inconsistency? And I'm not going, it's dark stuff I don't want to talk about, but it's like, things are not adding up. Like the whole teeth situation, it's like, yeah, but it's like he had, what was it, caps in his mouth, and it looks like they were knocked out of his mouth. It's like, you know, from the gun being put in his mouth or someone shoving it in. And then now Addie start firing it off, being like, wait, does that mean someone killed Will? And it's like, dude, yeah, because I brought that up last episode. I was like, isn't it weird his teeth to be on the floor? Like, to me, that was a clear sign of it not being suicide, because in fact, his teeth were on the floor. But then I was like, maybe because he put the gun in his mouth. Because that was the thing. Typically with that situation, I wouldn't assume, like, you put the gun, I mean, I'm no expert, I'm not no crime expert, a forensics expert, but typically with situations like that, and this is kind of a little gruesome to talk about, but people they open their mouths around the barrel of the gun, like I would assume like their teeth like are open. So like he basically had to put the gun in front of his teeth to do that. But even then, like with the trajectory of like the gun igniting like that, really far off, but it had to be someone who held the gun up to his face and pulled the trigger. But now Addie's starting to think, now part of her is probably wondering, did Colette do it? She was there along with the body, and then she brought me into it, so this could be, and as someone had suggested last week, like, that maybe Colette's going to try and throw Addie into it, because now it's like, Addie can't really say anything because she'll get, you know, thrown in as an accomplice. But then you got that whole suspicious thing about Beth, where I'm like, I don't think Beth was involved in it, but she's definitely sniffing this out to be like, yo, what's up? But I'm like, like I said, there's at least 3 suspects: Kurtz, Colette, and now Matt. Like I said, I'm sticking with it. Matt's going to be on my list. He's, like I said, if I had to put them in order, it'd be Kurtz is my number 1 suspect, Colette's number 2, and Matt is number 3 for me. So that's where things stand for me. Next week is the freaking season finale, dude. Holy shit, I cannot wait to see what ends up going down, dude, because it's going to go down. I'm so curious to see how this all ends up playing out. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good